to introduce you to RNA-seq data analysis, or how to explore next-generation sequencing data to analyze levels of expression from different types of experiments, looking at applications of next-generation sequencing to cancer research, infectious diseases, and biotechnology. So in today's session, we're going to start talking about how to process next-generation sequencing data that comes out of the sequencers. So what are the essential steps of pre-processing, mapping, and quantification? So we are in session 2. Remember that in session 1, we primarily talked about where to find all the necessary resources to make the most out of this program. And as we continue, we ask that you take the time to review those resources regularly in between the sessions. So the most effective way to utilize these sessions is as a review and for practical, interactive, kind of hands-on activities. You can monitor your personal activity and everybody else's on the shared portal where we have the program page. And on that program page, we have a shared kind of a progress report that you can view. In that progress report, you will also see everybody else that is a member of this program, and you can find out about other members. And potentially this is useful because as we continue throughout the program, you will get to meet some other people involved in this, and you'll be able to work on either independent projects or projects that are together with somebody else. So one of the objectives of the Omics Logic training is to introduce you to the practical tools, introduce you to data sets, but also help facilitate this kind of a joint research activity if you are interested, if that's the objective for you personally. So on that page, you can also see all of the schedule of the events. You can also see recordings of our previous sessions. And you'll also be able to see some supplementary materials as we go through these sessions that will point you to relevant articles, methods of analysis that are described in greater detail than what we cover in the session itself, and also data sets. As we start working on specific data sets, those would be posted on the forum. Okay, so the way this program is organized, the Omics Logic Transcriptomics program, is it has these essential 3 courses: Transcriptomics 1, Transcriptomics 2, and Transcriptomics 3. Now, before Transcriptomics 1, last time when we met, we asked everybody to complete Introduction to Bioinformatics. In the Introduction to Bioinformatics course, you provide also some information about yourself by filling out the survey. So if you have not yet completed the Introduction to Bioinformatics course, please go back. It's on the educational site. It's a free course, so anybody can take it, but specifically people in this program, we would love to learn a little bit more about your educational background as well as your interest, because we are trying to adapt our programs to the needs and interests of all of those that participate. After you complete Introduction to Bioinformatics, you should continue on to Transcriptomics 1. There, whatever we will cover in this session is described in greater detail, providing you some quizzes, as well as some practical assignments that you can complete on your own to make sure that you understand how to apply what we are talking about in person. Then we will talk about Transcriptomics 2. In Transcriptomics 2, we talk about how to identify and study significant trends in the data and how to interpret their biological meaning. So when we find these patterns of gene expression, how do we apply statistical analysis to find differentiating differences in levels of expression and the factors that make those differences biologically connected to the way the experiment was designed. Then in Transcriptomics 3, we talk about big data. So we talk about how do you deal with more complex patterns, identifying not just differences between 2 or several groups, but working with multiple types of variations across many, many genes and many, many samples. And that's where we introduce machine learning, clustering, and classification. And then finally, at the end, there's going to be a session on single-cell transcriptomics. all of that is covered in Transcriptomics 4. We call that an optional course because even though single-cell transcriptomics is becoming more significant and popular, there are still a lot of unsolved challenges around processing many different types of library preparation techniques, and also in the case of interpretation. So most of the interpretation still boils down to differences between tissue. And there's not that many data sets available that allow us to study time course and other aspects of single cell transcriptomics that are of interest from a research perspective, just because of the limitations of the number of data points that you have to have and the methods that allow you to explore such variation. Now, the sessions that we will do in between these topics that are covered in the online sessions are going to be dedicated to questions and answers. So if you have any questions that come up as you go through this online material, we ask you to post that in the forum so that we can address those in the session. So if a question is relevant to everybody else, we're going to kind of dissect it and try to answer all of that in a session so that you understand the answer, but also others can benefit from that. And also we'll do some practical activities. So we'll go to the platform, prepare some pipelines, discuss differences in pipelines, like that's something that we'll do today. In other sessions, we'll take a piece of code and go through that code so that everybody understands what does it do and how do we modify it to adapt it to our project and our data set. So throughout this process, it's very important that in between the sessions, you actually complete the online materials. And it's equally important that you put your questions in the forum. Otherwise, we are going to be talking about the things that we are used to talking about, and it might not be relevant necessarily to where you are in the process of understanding these data sets. So let's continue talking about next generation sequencing data. Last time we started talking about what this data does, but historically this data started to appear after the DNA code was discovered, and then people understood that to really make sense of that DNA code, we have to map it onto a reference. And so the Human Genome Project was essentially an attempt to try to decode what this code means for a universal human genome. So that genome was sourced from multiple people. The leaders of that project became prominent leaders in the field today, both in industry and academia. And as a result of that project, many new technologies were developed, including the Illumina sequencing technology that we will talk about today. It's a technology that generates short sequences from the genetic material that essentially have to be mapped back onto the reference genome. And so you can see that building out the reference genome also started this accelerated pace of discovery in terms of new sequencing technologies as well as computational technologies, because to be able to map those single reads, which are essentially short sequences, onto a huge sequence, you have to have a lot of computational resources. Now, today, there are thousands and thousands of human genomes. So now it's not just one reference genome, but essentially everyone can have their own reference genome. But also the technologies for generating sequencing data are changing as well. So we will be talking about Illumina sequencing, but we'll also mention some of the other sequencing technologies that are changing the way that we analyze data, and also the detail at which and the speed at which we can generate that data. So ultimately, when we talk about gene expression, that gene expression helps us connect the phenotype that we observe in a biological sample with the levels of expression. And primarily when people say RNA-seq, they are thinking about mRNA or messenger RNA that carries the instructions for making a protein. Now, that does not mean that transcriptomic data has a lot more to offer. So in fact, if we do differences, different types of library preparation techniques allow us to study much more than just mRNA, including long non-coding RNAs, and other types of microRNAs and other types of RNAs, and those would be responsible for epigenetic regulation of gene expression. So what we'll talk about today is the process of gene expression, but we have to remember that the path from phenotype to gene expression and how gene expression kind of determines the phenotype actually has a lot of many points of regulation. So we have to place it back into the context of all of the omics data. Now, to speak about the practical side of gene expression and how to analyze such data, and also show you how to analyze this data, I want to pass it over to Dr. Harpreet Kaur. She has a PhD in bioinformatics, and her thesis was focused on cancer genomics. So she really understands how transcriptomic and genomic data is used to characterize cancer. And Harpreet, if you could please start by sharing a few words about your background and then continue with the session.
Okay, thank you, Ilya. So, hello everyone. So, my name is Harpreet Kaur and I have a PhD in bioinformatics. And my PhD mainly focused on identification of genomic biomarkers for the diagnosis and prognosis of the liver cancer. At the Pine Biotech, I am Omics Logic Bioinformatics trainer, where I will assist all the participants in any technical issues and will also be a mentor you in your research, designing your research projects. So now let's begin with today's session. In today's session, we will learn about various steps that are required to produce a RNA gene expression data table from raw sequencing reads. We will also review the algorithms that are used for the processing of the data. So in this session, we will get an overview of RNA-seq, read quality, pre-processing, mapping on the reference genome, using various tactics for the alignment and alignment-free quantification, and quantification of the genes and the transcripts. We will also learn how we can summarize structures data. So before heading into today's session, let me ask few questions of what you have understand during our last session. So where do you go to find the courses and the projects included with this program? So option 1, T-Bioinfo server. Option 2, that is program forum. 3, program syllabus. And 4, program course space. So you can type your answer in the chat box. So yes, under the program courses and the syllabus, you will get all the details. So the next question, where do you go with your questions about any course material or regarding this program? So option A, T-Bioinfo server. B, program forum. C, program syllabus. And 4, that is NCBI. Yeah. So all of you are correct. Shimon, David, Andrea. So yes, program forum, where you can post any query that you have. So now let me ask a few questions, as last time we talked about NGS data format. So let me ask a few questions regarding that. So which file format represent the raw reads? A, FASTA, B, FASTQ, C, text, D, GTF file. Excellent. So all of you are correct. That is FASTQ files. So the next question, which file format represents sequence of the genes or the proteins? A, FASTA, B, FASTQ, C, text, and D, GTF. So yes, you are absolutely correct, and it's a FASTA. So this FASTA format is also used for whenever you're using for any reference sequence. And the next question, which file indicate the position of the exons and introns? A, FASTA, B, FASTQ, C, text, or D, GTF? You are absolutely correct. It's a GTF file. So which file represents the alignment of sequence reads on the reference genome? FASTA, B, FASTQ, C, SAM file, D, GTF. Great. So yes, this is the SAM file that is also considered as sequence alignment mapping. So it will represent the mapping of your reads on a reference genome. Now let's begin with today's sessions. So I'm pretty sure you all are very much familiar with RNA transcription. So today we will focus on how we can process the RNA-seq data to produce a structured data in the form of gene expression table. So now first let's get an overview of transcription process and what are the steps that are taking place within the cell. So it starts with RNA polymerase adding complementary nucleotide to the DNA template strand. Then various protein binds to the polyadenylation site near the 3' end of the pre-mRNA molecule. Next, a cap and tail is added to the respective 5' and the 3' ends. Then non-coding introns are removed and the exons are joined together. Finally, 5' cap is recognized by nuclear pore complex, signaling the export of the mRNA from the nucleus to the cytosol. So next question I'm asking, how we can quantify or detect mRNA? So can you name any technique that you are familiar with which we can measure the mRNA abundance, or we can quantify mRNA? So David saying real-time PCR. Okay, so yes, all of you are correct. So first is RT-PCR or real-time PCR. Since PCR amplifies DNA, not the RNA. So in the RT-PCR, first this RNA is converted back to the DNA prior to the amplification. And this process is called reverse transcription. In naturally, this particular process, that is reverse transcription, is that carried out by the retroviruses. Next is Northern blotting. So here an RNA sample is digested into the fragments, and these fragments are further separated by the gel electrophoresis. Then they are transferred to the membrane that can be probed to test the presence of a hypothesized RNA transcripts. So third one is well known, which is microarray. So it is similar to the Northern blot, that is, it is hybridization based approach. What in contrast to the Northern blotting, in the microarray, it yields highly detailed information about the individual genes that have been transcribed. So these signals are then detected, quantified, and used to create a digital image like this. So finally, this digital image is used to identify a transcribed genes. But all of these methods that we discussed so far can quantify only predefined transcripts. So what we will do if there is an unknown sequences? So answer to that is next generation RNA-seq. Now let's understand about NGS transcription sequencing. So NGS transcription sequencing is a process that measures advance in the study of the gene expression because it allows a snapshot of whole transcriptome rather than only predefined subset of the genes. So the whole transcriptome sequencing provides us a comprehensive view about a cellular transcription profile at a given biological movement and greatly enhance the power of this RNA discovery methods. So how this NGS sequencing done? So let's get an overview. First, the RNA molecule that is extracted from the cell is converted into the cDNA, or we can also take directly genomic DNA. Once we have this DNA, then it is sheared and placed into the flow cell. Inside the flow cell, this cDNA is further amplified using PCR like bridge PCR. So then this particular flow cell further inserted into the sequencer. Then this sequencer machine uses image analysis to capture each letter in the flow cell fragment by analyzing visual pattern and converting them into the sequence of the 4 letters, that is A, T, G, C. So eventually it will produce the reads which contain this kind of sequences. So these reads can be 30 to 300 base pairs. So as we have already even talked about in the last session, that NGS sequencing data can be stored into the 4 file formats. One is FASTQ, which provides us the reads from the sequencer. It is the text-based file format and stored nucleotide sequencer of the reads, and as well as the quality score for each of the nucleotide. Then this is the FASTA format, which contain the complete sequence of protein or the RNA or the DNA. So even in the case of the reference genome, this FASTA file format is used. Then we have GTF, which is genome transfer files or format, sorry. So which contains genome annotation. Usually, for example, GTF will store start and end of each of the genomic element. It could be exon, isoforms, or the genes. Then this is the SAM file. So these SAM files or sequence alignment maps, they represent the alignment of your reads on the reference genome. It usually starts with a header section followed by alignment information that as tab separated lines for each of the read. The BAM file is actually similar to the SAM file. The only difference that it has in comparison to the SAM, in the BAM, all this format is actually binary format. So to process next generation sequencing data, we must map read onto the reference genome. So to do so, we have to know where we have exons or the exons on the genome. So this information, as I have already told you, is stored in the GTF file. Then we take the sequence from the FASTQ file where we have the short reads to align to some of the annotated position on the genome. So the reference genome gives us information where the gene is located and what exons are on that particular gene. Then as different isoforms are created from this single reference gene, different reads are mapped onto the specific exons because they are mapped in a different quantities. FASTQ files can give us a different sequence of the reads. So this is what our GTF file looks like. Here you will get this information, exons, and then what is the start codon, stop codon, and all this information is available in the GTF file that is used for the annotation. So to understand why all these steps are needed in the RNA-seq analysis pipeline, now let's look at the expression of the genes and how the data can be used to study this. So this is like a reference genome where you have gene A, gene B, and gene C. But here not everything is going to be transcribed. For example, in this particular example, gene A and gene C are going to transcribe, but not the gene V. So this RNA product will be further shattered into the pieces, and then adapters are attached at the beginning and the end of each of this fragment. And this nucleotide information amplified using a PCR amplification and then read by the sequencers. So this is where our these are the small reads with which having a adapters at and that is 5' and the 3' position. So this is where our analysis steps start. A typical RNA-seq pipeline involves 3 major steps, that is pre-processing, then mapping on a reference genome, and third one is quantification of the gene expression label. So on the T-Bioinfo server, these each of the algorithm that involves in all these processes is specific to color coded. For example, pre-processing algorithms are color coded with the blue, mapping algorithms are color coded with the red color, and quantification algorithm is color coded with the green. Now let's look at each of these step one by one and what are the different algorithms that are used for it. So there is some question, bind, do you mean target enrichment? So I have just not getting your your question, what exactly you are asking.
So maybe the question is also about what is hybridization, right? And what does it mean to amplify, right? So enhancement, are you meaning amplification? Adetayo? Okay, so yeah, so hybridization, maybe just to explain, means that you have a complementary piece of DNA that the cDNA that is produced will bind to, and so it matches the sequence. But the way that it happens with next generation sequencing is actually you get a signal for each nucleotide. And then once you have the genetic material from your raw sample, from your biological sample, it has to be amplified so that you have enough information about each single nucleotide so that you know exactly what is there, avoiding the mistakes, just the technical difficulty between recognizing differences in the signal from the different nucleotides that they produce. So hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Ilya. So now let's look at these different steps one by one. So first is pre-processing, that is performed by 2 of the algorithms, that is Trimomatic and the PCR clean. So usually what it does, it will clean your data. So then the next is GTF processing. So it can be done by cuff merge. So cuff merge, it will merge the different annotation of the genome. So the result is balanced annotation of the genome based on several NGS data sets. Then third is mapping. So mapping, what it does, these they are the different mapping methods like Bataille, Tofut, and HiSet. What they do, they will align your reads on the reference genome. So it can then the expression label quantification. So it can be done by different algorithms, that is Sailfish, RSCM, HTSEC. So what these algorithms do, they count the number of reads aligned to each of the transcripts, then converts read count into the relative expression labels. Then it can finally quantify your gene expression in a particular value. It could be FPKM, it could be RPKM, it could be the count values. So then isoform construction can be done by cufflinks. This is one of the algorithm for isoform construction. So what are the isoforms? So these are any of the 2 or the more functionally similar molecules that have a similar but not identical sequences. So they can be encoded by different genes. or RNA transcripts from the same gene which had different exons. So then exon detection can be done by Augustus. So these are different algorithms, and these are the major steps that whenever we do RNA-seq data analysis. How does NGS? So David had a question. So that is, how does NGS distinguish mRNA from other RNA molecule? So it will actually it will quantify each of the RNA transcripts. NGS usually quantify each of the RNA transcript. So mRNA or what are the exons or the introns that we can be always quantified using that is with the so you have so you are comparing it with the tRNA ribosomal RNA.
The way that it is done, the way that you distinguish between different types of RNA molecules is by library preparation. So one way to prepare the library is use what's called poly-A adenylation, which is an attachment of, so you are looking for only RNA that is in the process of translation. So in eukaryotes, polyadenylation is a part of the mature mRNA production for translation. So for example, that means that you have only RNA that is being used by the ribosome. So this is a library preparation step. So essentially, if you have a library designed to only take mRNA with poly-A tails, that is going to only give you information about mRNA. If you don't have that step, that's called total RNA. And the total RNA is where you will find all the RNAs. So mRNA, all the other types of non-coding RNAs as well.
Thank you, Ilya. Now let's look at each of these steps by one. So it doesn't.
And sorry, as Doug also mentioned, yes, you can also deplete ribosomal RNA. That's another step that you can do.
Now let's look at each of these steps one by one. So PCR clean removes all the duplicated reads. And question is why it is needed. So the presence of duplicate reads from the PCR application can distort the estimates of gene expression labels. So the input format for the modules could be can be a FASTQ files. So after the cleaning, PCR duplicates, the output is given in the same format, that is FASTQ. So the next algorithm, that is Trimomatic. So the Trimomatic algorithm, what it does, it cleans any technical sequences, that is adapters. When we start our sequencing, so at that point of time, adapters are added at 5' or the 3' end of each of the reads. So those adapters are removed by this particular algorithm, that is Trimomatic. So what this eventually, after doing the pre-processing, what we obtain, so it cleans the data from NGS sequencing preparation. This will increase the likelihood that read will align. So these steps also reduce the likelihood that sequencing errors are mistaken for any single nucleotide polymorphism. So these Trimomatic and PCR are the major pre-processing algorithm that we are going to use in our demonstration pipeline as well. So the next is mapping. Let me check the questions. So let me look at the question. So these mapping methods are used to identify the locus of a gene as well as the distance between the groups. Note that mapping algorithms are color coded in the red on the platform. So several mapping methods are available. So it could be Bottai, Toffert, HiSet. So the HiSet is one of such algorithm that is responsible for the aligned RNA sequences. So some other mapping algorithms, so that is Bottai 2, similar to this Bottai. So it is a fast alignment algorithm that is needed for that is based on the seed or the k-mer approach. So what is this seed or the k-mer approach means? Where seed substrings from the read and their reverse complements are extracted and aligned to the reference genome in ungapped fashion. So then their position on the reference are recorded and they are extended into the full alignment using SIMT accelerated dynamic programming. Then this is Toffert. So it is fast splice junction mapper for the short reads. So Toffert align RNA-seq read to a reference genome using Bottai itself. So after the reads were aligned, then Toffert analyzed the mapping results to identify splice junctions between the exons. Then this HiSet2 algorithm is alternating to the Toffert 2. So it aligns the reads to the reference genome and build a map of junction reads for assembling transcripts. So the next is, so these are the different mapping algorithms. So the next is quantification. So once the reads are aligned against a reference transcript sequences, then the quantification method count the number of these reads aligning to each of the transcripts. Then they convert read count into the relative expression values. So these are the, we know that different algorithms, that is RSCM, then Sailfish and HTSEC can be used. So after the pre-processing and the mapping, the expression value is quantified, and this can be could be in the FPKM value, TPM value, RPKM value. So depending upon the algorithm that is used, so quantified value can be measured in that. So now let's understand what is RPKM or FPKM. So what does it mean? So the FPKM generally stands for fragment per kilobase per million, while RPKM means these reads per kilobase per million. So what it indicates? So for example, the RPKM. So the number of reads that are mapped on a reference genome is divided with the total number of the mapped reads in the millions, and then it is also divided with the gene length in terms of the kilobase pairs. So difference between FPKM is RPKM is only that RPKM always quantify the value that are obtained from the single end reads, while FPKM actually quantify the values that are obtained from the pair end reads. So those pair end reads considered as single fragment. So that's why it is called as FPKM. Then TPM is also similar to the FPKM, only we are considering here transcripts per million. And of course, apart from that, to measure the TPM, the order of this measurement is a bit different. So now let's go over the T-Bioinfo platform and let's perform this. Let's perform how we can quantify, can produce a gene expression table from the raw reads. And if you are, when you are able to log into the server, just let me know that. So here how we are going to use, so this is from the here we are using a project that contain that is PDX, that is patient derived xenograft. So we are taking that project data set to for this particular example. So once you're able to log into this server, just let me know, just type yes or there. Okay. So Bipsa, if you can paste the link in the chat box for T1 server. Thank you, Ilya. Okay, so Francisco, Devo. So that's great. So just everyone just log into your server, already details that you have, just log into this server. So on this server, you will find various sections like NGS data, spectroscopy, structural biology, data integration. So apart from Francisco, Devo and David, anyone else who is able to log into the server? So as we want to generate a gene expression table. So it's under the transcriptomics section. So under the NGS data, here we have a section that is transcriptomics. So under the transcriptomics, here the first pipeline, that is RNA-seq/chip parallel analysis of NGS and microarray data. So if you click on this drop down, you will find the demo pipelines. So here we are going to show the selecting third pipeline, that is RNA-seq for the PDX project. So PDX project is patient-derived xenografts. So where we have a two type of breast cancer sample, that is ER positive and triple negative. So anyone tell me that what does it mean by ER positive and triple negative? So those are the breast cancer types where estrogen receptor positive, that is ER positive, and triple negative, which is a more aggressive, which lacks all the three receptors on its membrane. So triple negative is more aggressive form of breast cancer. So we are selecting this third pipeline, that is demo RNA-seq PDX project. So if you click on this, so how many of you able to start this pipeline? So the next step is we have to the next option that here getting highlighted, that is start. So with start, we able to upload the files. So as this is the demonstration pipeline, so we have already provided the data. So if you look at here, we provided the SVA links for the FASTQ files on, of the raw reads. So by clicking on OK, we able to upload these files. So how many of you able to upload your files? Just type yes in the chat box. Okay, that's great. So once we able to upload our file, the next option, if you look at here, which is getting highlighted, that is Trimomatic. So what this Trimomatic does, as I have already told you, that Trimomatic, it will remove any technical sequences, that it will remove the adapters from the sequencing reads. So even whenever you click on each step, you will get detail regarding each of the steps, what it is doing. So if you are not familiar, you can go through all these demo pipelines, and for each step you will get detail exactly what this algorithm is doing. So by clicking on OK, we able to perform Trimomatic, that will remove the adapters from our reads. Once we completed the Trimomatic, the next option here, which is getting highlighted, that is PCR clean. So what this PCR clean will do, that it will remove the PCR duplicates. So here you will understand exactly this PCR clean, what it does, that it removes all the duplicate reads from the raw sequencing reads. By clicking on the OK, we able to complete this step. So once we able to complete this, then there are the different algorithm that is getting highlighted, that is Botai2G, Botai2T, and HiSET. So if you look at the top of these algorithm. So here it is indicated these are the mapping. Once we have clean reads, the next is we will align those reads on a reference genome. As here our goal is to generate or the quantify a gene expression table. So we are going to use this Butai2T algorithm. So it will align your reads on a reference transcriptome. So by clicking on OK, we able to align our reads. Once our reads get aligned, the next algorithm that is or option is getting highlighted, that is under the expression label. That is, here we have different expression quantification algorithm. So the option that is automatically getting highlighted, that is RSCM expression table. So what it does, it will quantify your reads in terms of FPKM values. So by clicking on OK, be able to generate this kind of gene expression table. So the next option that is getting highlighted actually DSEQ. So DSEQ is one of differential gene expression algorithm. As in this exercise, our aim is to generate a gene expression table from the raw reads. We are not going to perform, so we are going to skip this particular step, which is for the differential gene expression analysis. The next option we are going to perform, that is end. So with the end, we able to complete our pipeline. So by clicking the OK, we able to complete our pipeline. So how many of you able to complete this pipeline?
Okay, there are a few questions here, so maybe I can briefly answer those. The question is, what is the difference between a reference transcriptome from a reference genome? So the reference genome is the full 3.2 billion nucleotides in the human genome. The transcriptome are only the expressed genes. So it's about 20,000 to 25,000 expressed genes. When we say the transcriptome, how do we know the sequence of the transcriptome? As Harpreet mentioned, you take the GTF file, it allocates the position of the beginning and the end of each exon, which compiles the transcripts, and the transcripts form the gene. And all of those are extracted, so you have a much more reduced length of the sequence. So that's why mapping on the transcriptome is faster than mapping on the genome. And then the second question was about PCR clean. PCR cleaning is a technique. It's not really an algorithm. So it's published under different names. And we'll put the reference publications for you to explore in the forum.
Thank you, Ilya. So I think many of you already completed the pipeline. So now let's go over the output that we have obtained after running this pipeline. So here under the output files, if you click on this, so here you will find various types of outputs. So now let's understand what are these outputs. So the first is these are the overall chipped result. So zip folder if you want to download. So then this is the PDX project. So it is indicating the mapping stats regarding your data. So then this is RSCM expression chain. So it is the usually count values, RSCM values. So then we have expression table in the FPKM value. So this is genes having FPKM value. So then the next file, which is FPKM value not filtered. So what is the difference between these two files? In case of this particular file, here all those genes are removed which have 0 values across all the samples, while in case or the maximum number of the samples, while in case of the not filtered, it contains all the genes whether they have 0 values or not across maximum number of the sample. So similarly, we have we have obtained gene expression table for the isoforms. So now let's download this fourth file, which is PDX project preprocessing Butai2T RSM expression _gene_fpkm.txt file. So now let's look at what is this table. So once you have that table, so then next we have pasted that table in the Excel. So now we can understand exactly what this expression table contains. So we can perform different types of processing of this data and also perform various kind of analysis once we have this table. Now look at what this table contains. So in the first column, in the rows, we have genes. So what this ENCG and all representing, these representing ensemble IDs of the all the transcripts or the genes. Then in the columns, we have various samples. So if you look at here, the first sample is ER positive. So after this, these are triple negative samples. So these are represented by TN. So ER positive samples are represented by ER. So this is in this table, we have in the columns, we have samples, and in the rows, we have genes. So all these genes have ensemble IDs. So how many of you able to obtain this particular table and able to paste it in the Excel? So David have a question, that is, do you set the cutoff point for filtering? So it takes automatic. So we have not set that particular any cutoff right now, but we can always set our cutoff even in the Excel if you want to remove, want to select some of the genes. Okay, so once we have this gene expression table, now what it represent? What are these values? So these values are the FPKM values. So now you can, based on the FPKM values, you can understand whether a particular gene is actually upregulated or downregulated in the sample. So you can various kind of exploratory analysis you can perform now before transforming this data into the any other value. So now let's take a one gene. For example, we are copying this gene into the another file and sample IDs. So I am also copying the sample IDs. Once we have this gene expression table, we can perform various types of analysis. So still this data contain only FPKM values. So if you go to this table, insert. So now you can compare, although still we have to perform various normalization on this data. But once you have this gene expression table, then you can explore it for various kind of analysis and look at what are some of the genes that is getting upregulated or the downregulated in a particular disease condition in comparison to the other. For example, here if we look at this, these are the ER positive samples. So these are triple negative samples. Just at looking at the only expression value of this particular gene, so we can say that this particular gene seems to be overexpressed in ER positive in comparison to the triple negative samples. Is it clear to you? Just this is still, we need to normalization of the data. We need to perform all those kind of analysis. But to perform any analysis, what we need a well-structured gene expression table. So because you cannot perform any analysis on the raw sequencing read data, which is FASTQ files, even a single FASTQ file, Can anybody tell me size of a single FASTQ file approximately? So 10 to 20 GB are normal within from 5 to 20 GB, usually a single FASTQ file, sometimes depending upon the size of a read, it varies. So to deal such data, even a single, you cannot do any analysis, or even you cannot upload a single file. Or if you have 10 samples, so how much GB it will contain? It could be 200 GB. Even if your single file contain is of a 10 GB, so then if you have a 20 files, so you would have the size that is 200 GB. Not there is no PC or laptop can perform any analysis of such a big large data. So for that you need some cloud platform, or to perform any analysis, even to handle that file, that data. So to process that data, we have simplified this process using simple this running these pipelines. So we have this on TBioInfo platform. We have just we can perform any analysis using the only SV links from those files, because we cannot handle all those even a single file on our system. So this is, once we have this expression data, the next is how we can perform various kind of exploratory analysis. So any one of you able to produce a bar plot for a single gene? So the Matthew, Francisco. So that's great. So anyone who is unable to produce this gene expression table, or unable to run this pipeline? So is it clear to everyone? That's great. So if you have any question so far, you can post your query in the chat box. Okay, so I followed along in the demo. So Andrea, yes, this is the demo pipeline. So otherwise, whenever you have a other data set, so when you go through the transcriptomics course 1, so you will have an assignment where you have explanation regarding each of these steps, that how you should proceed. So these demo pipelines are actually help us to understand how we can proceed for any analysis. Is it clear to you, Andrea? Okay, so David have another question. How we can convert gene ensemble to gene names? So there are different algorithms that are available, that by using we can convert them into the gene IDs or gene symbols. Even these are the major steps that we have talked about today. So the algorithm that you can use depending upon any your desired analysis. So these are the major steps that first you need to to follow pre-process, then followed by mapping. Then you have to quantify gene expression. So these are the major steps that you need to, algorithm that you can use depending upon the analysis that you want to use and depending upon the data set that you have. Now let's go back to the presentation. So when we started with the when we started with our analysis pipeline, we have raw sequencing reads. Finally, we have this gene expression table. So the first thing that we need to do, that is how we can summarize our data. So the best way to summarize your data is the box plot. So but this box plot representing it represents the summary statistics regarding your data. For example, in a particular sample, so here it will provide you the information regarding upper quartile, lower quartile, and also provide you information regarding median value, then minimum value and the maximum value in a particular sample. Besides, it also provides you information regarding what are the different outliers in the data. So you can draw box plot using R and the Excel as well. So the next is data normalization. So it is well known fact that most of the statistics analysis methods can be applied only on a data that follow normal distribution. So let's talk about some of normalization technique for the gene expression data. First is log scale transformation. So when we looking at our original gene expression table, a large number of samples will look like outliers. So this type of distribution will interfere with many of the statistical tests that we plan to use or analyze our gene expression data. So to reduce this wide range of variation in the data, we will transform our values into the log scale. And now this data, after log scaling, this data becomes a more normally distributed. And this procedure of the normalization is often at times called as log scale transformation. So this log scale transformation makes data more or less similar to the normal distribution. So now let's see how this transformation affects the distribution of the values in one of the samples. So let's take one example. Here in the one sample in the raw data, we have lot of genes that have low expressed values, and there are some of genes that are highly expressed. After the log scale transformation, the data becomes normally distributed that follows a bell curve. So it will be very useful to make accurate assumption regarding our data. Now we can apply various statistical or parametric tests that requires normal distribution in the data. So it would be easy to compare values between the sample without losing details of lower expressed or the high expressed values for each of these genes. So another normalization technique, that is quantile normalization. So this quantile normalization, particularly, it is most useful when you have a number of the conditions that you would want to compare, assuming sample in each of these conditions are biological replicates. As in this example, we have multiple samples in each of these conditions, which is represented in the light green color and light orange color. So like it representing ER positive group or the triple negative samples. So this type of normalized data help us to understand the different kind of genes within our data. For example, majority of the genes have normal distribution. So the reason for why many of the genes have normal distribution is that gene expression, they have normal gene expression. Reason is that these genes perform normal functioning in the cells. Then we have some of the genes that have low expression. We can expect it could be maybe a technical noise. Then we have a statistically significant different genes that are actually biologically important for our any analysis. So what would be the effect of a normalization? So for example, here we have two conditions. This particular, in the first example, we have a data without normalization. So it seems like this particular gene is highly expressed in one condition in comparison to the other condition. This is ER positive and triple negative. But when this data is transformed into the log scale transformation and the normalization, so this difference clearly disappears. So this shows why normalization of data is important to drive any correct interpretation. So now let's go back to our gene expression table and let's see how we can transform our data into the log scale transformation directly in the Excel. So we had this gene expression table. So first question arises, why we need a log scale transformation? So as I have already told you that if you look at this data, so here if you look at this data, we could have a value like 1.18 here, and we could have a value that is 18,107. So this indicates in this data, there is wide range of variation. So to remove that wide range of variation, we usually transform our data into the log scale. So now let's see how we can do the log scale transformation. So here with the simple formula that we can use, that is log, then we can take the value of a particular cell. So I am taking B1, the B2, and then we have to add 1. So why we are adding 1? So before, let me just show you that. So if you don't add 1 before performing log scale transformation, the problem is when you are taking the log of the 0. So log of 0, you cannot compute that into a numerical value. So to remove that issue, that we able to be able to transform this 0 values as well. So that's why we are actually adding 1. So now we can, so this is simple formula. We have used log, then we have take a value of first. So here I have taken the V2. So this is what my V2. So then we have added the plus 1 just in case we have a 0 value. So to convert to take the log of the 0 values, we have added 1. So finally we are going to take log of the 1. So log of the 1 means we will again obtain a 0 value. So now we can drag it till we have the columns. So the last column that we have U, so till U column we have to drag it. So here we have T2. So then we can drag it to the row wise to transform all the log scale data. So now let me show you what the difference that we have obtained after log scaling our data. So I'm taking the same gene. So again, I'm just copying it, the samples. I'm also copying the same genes, gene IDs. So as we were taking this particular gene, so let me just copy this and let's see the difference after the log scale transformation. So now let's draw this bar plot for this particular log transformed values. To insert. Now let's see the difference. The first difference, if you look at the y-axis, here we had it from 0 to 30,000 range. So now if you look at this plot, here we can clearly see that the minimum value here we have a 0 and maximum value is 4.5 in the range of near to 4.5. So the first change that we have observed that there is not wide range of variance. So initially, if we looking at this particular bar plot, it looks like this particular gene is upregulated in the ER positive in comparison to triple negative. While if you look at this plot, there this difference doesn't this difference completely disappear. So this is how actually without normalization you cannot compare your or you can compare any you cannot drive any biological interpretation from the data. So is it clear to you? How many of you are able to log scale or perform log scale transformation in the Excel? So this shows by normalization. We want to use. So here we are using natural log. I think that depends upon normalization. Usually in the literature, the log, this natural log transformation is performed. Most of the publication, that's why we follow that. Still, I have to look into exactly why we are not performing not base of 10. That I have to look into that. This is what the standard method that we are usually used. So is it clear to everyone? So then if you want to perform or want to visualize your data, then we have another platform that is CoreOmics Logic. So today I just will show you, and next in the next session we are going to perform visualizable data. Just here under the courses, if you go to the transcriptomics, so in at this CoreOmics Logic, you will also get the all the lessons that today we have covered covered this RNA transcription. So you will get all these lessons here as well. So beside here we have data visualization in R and the Python. So if you go to the load more, so here you can learn how you can load a data and data visualization in the R as well as in the Python. So anyone who is unable to do log transformation of the data? So we are going to visualize, or I think today it's not much time. So we will visualize our data in the next session. So if you have any questions for today, so you can ask and post your questions in the chat box. So today what we have mainly learned that how we can convert raw sequencing reads into the gene expression table, and then how we can normalize that data and visualize the expression pattern of a particular gene, or you can also visualize the pattern of multiple genes in a particular sample. So then how we can log scale, we can perform normalization of data. So, and why normalization of data is important. So you can also perform log scale transformation in the R and Python as well. So in the next session, we are going to cover statistical analysis that we can perform on our data once we have. So besides then, what are different algorithms that, what are different tools with which we can drive a biological interpretation? As already have David had these questions. So if we have ensemble IDs, how we can convert them into the genes? So there are some of the tools that one is DBIT, and then we have even ensemble. So with you, if you provide your ensemble IDs, you can find out which gene they belongs. So you can provide them as ensemble ID and find out what are their biology. Beside, you can, if you have find out some particular set of genes that are differentially expressed in a your conditions, then you can also perform biological interpretation using this DBIT and ensemble tools. So if you have any question now so far. So today the maximum the topic that we have covered is very well explained in the Transcriptomics 1 course, and then there are the different lessons under the transcriptomics that I have shown you on Codomics, where you can get details regarding each of these courses. So this particular Transcriptomics course 1 is available at educational platform. I think Deepsa, you can also share link of that. As this is it is difficult to cover everything in a live session, so the description of all those algorithm and why we should use a particular algorithm, you can find out details in these Transcriptomics 1 course.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Harpreet, and thank you everyone for joining today. If you have any questions, please keep asking the questions and posting them in the forum. And in the email that I will be sending to you all, where the video would be there for this session, as well as the relevant links to all of the different portals again. For the Codomics logic, if you have not yet registered, it's a very simple registration which you have to do with your own email ID, and then you can start taking the courses. I would be forwarding the links again. And if you have any questions, again, you can reach out to us and email us those questions when you're going through the courses or when you're reviewing the video again and you have a question. Please post those in the forum, and also you can always email us. And my email ID as usual is marketing@pine.bio. So thank you all for joining today. I will see you next week. And thank you so much, Dr.
Okay, Deepsa, I just want, okay. So I just asking here, you have 2 assignments before the next session that we expect that you will able to complete that. One, complete your profile at platform. The second, complete this Transcriptomics 1 course. So Transcriptomics course, where you will get all the basic or more details regarding what we have covered today. So in the next session, we are going to perform various kind of statistical and exploratory analysis on this gene expression table. So in next session, we are going to cover that.
Thank you, Dr. Harpreet.
So thank you. So thank you everyone for joining for today's session.
And have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you.